The massive circular chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with the low hum of hundreds of translators working at once. Delegate Jiwon Kim from Earth stood at her small platform, surrounded by towering alien representatives from across the galaxy. Her hands were folded neatly in front of her as she waited for her turn to speak. At the center of the chamber sat Prince Tarak of the Veltari Empire. His body was twice the size of any human, covered in thick purple scales that gleamed under the artificial lights. 6 powerful arms extended from his torso, each ending in razor-sharp claws. His people controlled more than 30 worlds, and everyone knew it. "Next, we will hear the tribute proposal from the human delegation," announced the session coordinator, its voice echoing through the vast space. Jiwon stepped forward and cleared her throat. "Honorable Council members, Earth requests a 30% reduction in our annual resource tribute. Our agricultural systems are struggling to adapt to climate changes, and our population needs more food supplies to remain stable. We ask for understanding during this difficult adjustment period." The chamber fell silent. Then Prince Tarak started to laugh. It began as a low rumble that gradually built into a thunderous roar. His 6 arms slapped his chest and the sides of his throne as he threw his massive head back. Soon other delegates from Veltari worlds joined in, creating a wave of mocking laughter that filled the chamber. "Weak humans," Prince Tarak bellowed, his voice booming over the laughter. "Always asking for less work, more food. You are the smallest, most fragile creatures in this galaxy, yet you ask for special treatment?" Jiwon's face reddened slightly, but she maintained her professional stance. "Your Highness, we are not asking for special treatment. Our proposal follows standard procedures for tribute adjustment based on planetary circumstances." Prince Tarak rose from his throne, his towering form casting a long shadow over the human platform. Each of his steps shook the floor as he approached. "Let me show everyone why humans will always serve stronger species." In the center of the council chamber sat the ceremonial stone of determination. It was made of dense crystal from a collapsed star system, weighing exactly 1,000 standard units. According to tradition, each species had attempted to lift it during their first council appearance. Most used specially designed equipment or teams to move it even slightly. Prince Tarak walked to the stone with casual confidence. The chamber's cameras focused on him, broadcasting the scene to billions of viewers across the galaxy. With just one arm, he wrapped his clawed hand around the stone's base. His muscles barely tensed as he lifted the massive object above his head, holding it there effortlessly. "This stone took 6 of your humans just to bring into this chamber," Prince Tarak announced loudly, "and they needed anti-gravity assists." More laughter erupted from his supporters. "Yet I, alone, lift it like a child's toy." He held the stone aloft for several more moments, making sure every camera captured the image. Then, with deliberate slowness, he lowered it back to its pedestal. The chamber shook when it settled into place. "This," he gestured toward the stone, then toward Jiwon, "is why your species exists to serve ours. Physical weakness leads to dependence. Dependence requires protection. Protection demands payment. It is the natural order of the universe." The Veltari delegates and their allied species burst into applause. Some even stamped their feet in approval, creating a rhythmic thundering that resonated through the chamber walls. Jiwon watched all of this quietly. Her expression remained calm, though her hands clenched slightly tighter behind her back. She had prepared for exactly this scenario during her training on Earth. Prince Tarak returned to his throne, satisfaction clear on his scaled face. "Your tribute request is denied, Ambassador Kim. In fact, for wasting our time with such ridiculous demands, Earth's tribute shall increase by 20%, effective immediately." The chamber filled with murmurs of agreement from various delegates. Several species who had previously supported more moderate tribute policies now seemed swayed by the prince's display of raw power. As the session coordinator prepared to move on to the next agenda item, Jiwon took a deep breath. This was the moment she had trained for, the moment Earth's strategist had anticipated. "Your Highness," she called out, her voice cutting through the residual chatter. "I invoke the ancient rights of honor challenge." The chamber fell completely silent. Even the translators seemed to pause, as if uncertain they had processed her words correctly. Prince Terok's 6 arms froze mid-gesture. For the first time since the session began, the prince's expression shifted, from amusement to something else, perhaps confusion or the faintest hint of uncertainty. The rest of the delegates turned their attention back to the human platform, where Ji-won Kim stood alone, small but determined, having just invoked a law that hadn't been used in over 2 centuries. The humiliation was complete, but the story was far from over. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber was so complete that even the ventilation systems seemed to pause. All translator devices had stopped their constant humming as every delegate processed what Ambassador Ji-won Kim had just said. Prince Terok slowly turned his massive head toward her, his 6 arms frozen in mid-gesture. His scaled face shifted, from amusement to confusion, then to something that might have been concern. "You invoke the honor challenge?" His voice was lower now, less certain. "Yes, Your Highness," Ji-won replied clearly. She pulled out a small data tablet from her sleeve and held it up. According to Galactic Law, Section 47, Paragraph 12, any delegate who feels their world has been unfairly judged may invoke this ancient right. The chamber remained silent for several heartbeats. Then an elderly Orovani delegate drifted forward. Its tentacle-like appendages moved gracefully as it consulted ancient records displayed on multiple floating screens. The creature had served on the council for over 300 years and was considered the ultimate authority on galactic law. "The human is correct," the challenge master announced, its voice like wind through crystal chimes. "The ancient rights of honor challenge is still valid, though unused for 2 centuries and 17 years. Prince Terok of the Veltari Empire, you have been formally challenged. Will you accept?" Prince Terok's scales shifted color slightly, betraying his agitation. To refuse would mean admitting weakness before the entire galaxy, but accepting meant risking everything. He looked around the chamber, noting the expression of his allied delegates. Some showed confusion, others whispered among themselves. None offered clear guidance. "I accept," he finally declared, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "But let it be known that this human has sealed her world's fate. When I win, Earth's tribute will double permanently." Ji-won nodded solemnly. "And when I win, Earth's tribute will be reduced to voluntary contributions only. Furthermore, the Veltari Empire will cease all forced tribute collections from any world." Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. The implications of such terms were staggering. If humans won, the entire tribute system that had governed galactic relations for centuries would collapse. The challenge master consulted its floating screens again. The formal challenge consists of 3 tests, designed by the council founders to measure worthiness without bias toward any species' unique advantages. These are the test of body, the test of mind, and the test of survival. It paused, allowing translators to ensure every delegate understood perfectly. The test of body evaluates not strength alone, but adaptability, efficiency, and the wise use of physical capabilities. The test of mind measures not knowledge, but creative problem-solving and the ability to find solutions where others see obstacles. The test of survival assesses not mere endurance, but the capacity to thrive in adversity. Prince Terok straightened in his throne. These tests were different from simple strength demonstrations. They were designed by species far older than his own, meant to prevent exactly the kind of domination his empire had built itself upon. Victory requires success in at least 2 of the 3 tests, the challenge master continued. The trials will begin in 21 standard days, allowing both parties time to prepare. They will be broadcast to all member worlds. Immediately, betting pools opened across thousands of worlds. The odds against humanity were enormous, 10,000 to 1, according to most gambling establishments. Prince Terok's size, strength, and vast resources made him seem unbeatable to most observers, but some noticed subtle details. Ji-won Kim hadn't appeared surprised or concerned. Her request for tribute reduction hadn't been desperate or pleading. And most intriguingly, Earth's Small delegation in the viewing gallery showed no signs of panic. They watched calmly, some even appearing satisfied. Prince Tarak descended from his throne and approached Jiwan's platform. Up close, she looked even smaller, barely reaching the level of his lowest set of arms. "You have made a fatal mistake, Ambassador Kim. My species has dominated this galaxy for generations. We have never been defeated in any challenge." Jiwan looked up at him without flinching. "Your Highness, you've never been challenged by humans before. There's a first time, for everything." A ripple of nervous laughter spread through some delegates, though others remained quiet, sensing something significant was happening. The Veltari delegates began whispering among themselves, some looking concerned for the first time. The challenge. Master raised one of its tentacles. "The council session is adjourned. Both parties will use the preparation period wisely. 21 days hence, we shall witness history." As delegates began filing out of the chamber, Prince Tarak lingered, staring down at Jiwan. "I hope your world is prepared for the consequences of your pride." Jiwan gathered her materials calmly. "We've been preparing for longer than you know, Your Highness. I look forward to showing you what humans are truly capable of." The prince turned and stalked out, his footsteps echoing off the chamber walls. Behind him, Jiwan remained at her platform for a moment longer, sending a brief message on her tablet. Phase 1 complete. Prepare for Phase 2. The challenge was set. The galaxy would soon learn what happened when you underestimated humans. 21 days passed quickly. The neutral testing station orbited a dead planet, its massive structure designed specifically for challenges like these. Billions of beings across the galaxy tuned in to witness what most considered would be a swift and decisive victory for Prince Tarak. The test of body chamber was enormous, filled with obstacles that tested different aspects of physical capability. Some required pure strength, others demanded precision, and still others needed creative solutions. Prince Tarak stood at one end of the course, his 6 arms flexed and ready. Ambassador Jiwan Kim stood at the opposite end, looking impossibly small in her simple training suit. "Begin when the resonance sounds," announced the challenge master, its tentacles flowing gracefully as it activated the complex course. The deep harmonic tone echoed through the chamber, and Prince Tarak exploded into motion. His massive form bulldozed through the first obstacles, using raw strength to demolish barriers that were meant to be navigated carefully. His claws tore through synthetic materials. His powerful legs launched him over gaps meant to test jumping technique. The crowd cheered as he powered forward, showing exactly why Veltari dominated the galaxy. Meanwhile, Jiwan approached the course differently. Where Prince Tarak smashed, she slipped. Where he powered through, she found gaps. When she reached a wall meant to be climbed, she used angled surfaces and momentum rather than brute strength. Her movements looked like a dance, calculated, efficient, never wasting energy. The crucial difference became clear at the midpoint of the course. Here, the obstacles required moving through a complex maze while carrying increasingly heavy objects. Prince Tarak grabbed the largest weights and pushed forward, using one arm to clear paths while others carried the massive loads. But the maze was designed to punish size with passages that narrowed unexpectedly. Jiwan studied the pattern for a moment, then began selecting specific weights in sequence. Instead of carrying everything at once, she used the maze itself as a storage system, placing objects at strategic points and following an efficient route that allowed her to collect them later. When the maze passages narrowed, she was already ahead, having anticipated the design. By the final stretch, Prince Tarak was struggling. His great strength had left him exhausted, and the accumulated weights were now a burden even for his 6 arms. Jiwan, moving methodically, reached the finish line 3 full minutes before him. Test of body, human victory, the challenge master announced to gasps throughout the viewing areas. Prince Tarak's face darkened, but he said nothing as they moved to the test of mind chamber. This room contained holographic puzzles, mathematical challenges, and abstract problems that tested reasoning in multiple dimensions. Some challenges appeared as floating symbols that needed to be arranged, others as complex machinery that needed to be operated, and some as pure logic problems displayed on screens. Prince Tarok attacked these challenges as he had the physical ones with direct force and traditional Veltari logic training. His species had strong minds, and their educational systems produced excellent strategic thinkers. He worked through problems methodically, using established mathematical principles and memorized solution patterns. Jiwan approached the puzzles with curiosity rather than force. She spent time observing each challenge, looking for patterns that weren't immediately obvious. When faced with abstract symbols, she rearranged them not just in traditional sequences, but in artistic patterns that suddenly revealed deeper meanings. She connected seemingly unrelated elements, finding solutions through creative thinking rather than rigid logic. One puzzle required operating machinery to achieve a specific outcome. Prince Tarok followed the obvious control sequences, achieving results slowly but surely. Jiwan noticed that the machine's parts could be reconfigured entirely, creating new functions that solved the challenge in a fraction of the time. As challenge after challenge fell to her unconventional approaches, murmurs spread through the viewing gallery. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans weren't known for intellectual superiority in a galaxy full of species with larger brains and longer educational histories. The final mental challenge appeared, a three-dimensional puzzle that required manipulating elements in both physical, space, and across time dimensions. Prince Tarok spent precious minutes trying to understand the temporal aspect, his linear thinking struggling with the complexity. Jiwan looked at it for a moment, then did something unexpected. Instead of trying to solve it sequentially, she manipulated all elements simultaneously, treating time as just another dimension to work within. Her solution appeared like a burst of light across the holographic display. Test of mind, human victory, the challenge master declared. The viewing areas fell silent. 2 tests completed, 2 human victories. Prince Tarok's expression had shifted from confidence to confusion to something approaching concern. His 6 arms clenched and unclenched as the implications became clear. The final test awaits, the challenge master announced. Both contestants will be transported to the moon Krikstar for the test of survival. Preparation time, 1 hour. As they left the chamber, Prince Tarok finally spoke to Jiwan. You have surprised me, human. But survival in the wild? There, my natural advantages will prove decisive. Jiwan nodded politely. We'll see, Your Highness. Sometimes the advantages you think you have are exactly what hold you back. The prince strode away, still confident despite the unexpected losses. He had no idea that the test of survival would reveal the true nature of human adaptability. Retry SF. The transport ships dropped them on opposite sides of Krikstar, a barren moon known for its hostile environment. Fierce winds capable of stripping metal from machines howled constantly across the surface. The ground was a mixture of razor-sharp rocks and toxic mud that could burn through most materials. Strange creatures adapted to these conditions hunted in the shadows, and water was precious and hard to find. Each contestant received identical supplies: 1 survival knife, a water purifier, an emergency beacon for rescue if needed, and a basics medical kit. The challenge was simple: survive for 7 days, then reach the central rescue point located exactly between where they started. Prince Tarok examined his landing zone with satisfaction. His thick scales could handle the toxic environment better than most species, and his 6 arms made building shelter easier. He immediately began constructing a strong fortress from nearby rocks and metal debris, creating walls that would protect him from wind and predators. By the end of the first day, Tarok had built an impressive structure. His natural strength allowed him to move large boulders into defensive positions. He had also caught and killed 2 small scavenger creatures, providing protein for several days. His military training told him to establish a stronghold and wait out the challenge. Jiwan took a different approach entirely. Instead of staying at her landing point, she spent hours mapping the immediate area, studying wind patterns, and observing local wildlife. She noticed that certain creatures followed specific paths between hidden water sources. Rather than competing with them, she observed where they went and when. By nightfall, she had created not one shelter but 3 small hiding spots connected by carefully concealed paths. Each spot was minimal, just enough to protect her during rest periods, but invisible from above. She had also gathered various materials, studying which plants could be eaten and which could be used for other purposes. On the 3rd day, their paths crossed indirectly. Prince Tarok's fortress had attracted the attention of Krikstar's apex predator, a massive sand reaper. These creatures resembled giant armored lizards with multiple rows of diamond-hard teeth and claws that could tear through rock. They were blind but hunted by sensing vibrations through the ground. The sand reaper had been drawn to Tarok's heavy construction work and the steady rhythm of his movements. It burst from underground, sending rocks flying in all directions. Prince Tarok's military training kicked in immediately. He used his superior strength to grab chunks of rock and hurl them at the creature, while his multiple arms allowed him to attack from different angles. But the Sand Reaper's armor deflected most attacks, and its relentless assault began wearing down even Tarok's considerable strength. In desperation, he activated his emergency beacon, calling for extraction before the creature could inflict fatal wounds. The rescue team arrived just in time, stunning the predator and retrieving the injured prince. Meanwhile, Jiwon had learned to read the desert. She followed the scavenger paths to multiple water sources, ensuring she always had access to clean drinking water. She had befriended small, harmless creatures by sharing tiny portions of food, and they now served as early warning system for predators. When the same Sand Reaper eventually picked up her trail, she didn't try to fight it directly. Instead, she led it into a complex maze of narrow canyons and unstable rock formations. The creature's size became a disadvantage in tight spaces. Its powerful claws, designed for digging through sand, struggled with the smooth canyon walls. Jiwon had spent days studying the rock patterns and had prepared this escape route specifically. She knew exactly where loose rocks would tumble if disturbed, where the passages were too narrow for the creature, and where false paths would confuse its vibration-based tracking. After hours of being led through the maze, the Sand Reaper grew frustrated and exhausted. Unable to catch its prey and now confused about its location, it eventually gave up and retreated to find easier hunting grounds. On day 5, when search teams went looking for Prince Tarok, they found only his damaged shelter and evidence of the battle. His emergency beacon had led them to where he had been extracted, recovering from deep claw wounds and numerous bruises. Jiwon, meanwhile, discovered one of his previous campsites and was surprised to find evidence suggesting he had called for help. She left supplies there in case he still needed them, though she suspected he had already been rescued. By day 7, when Jiwon arrived at the central rescue point, Prince Tarok was already there, his wounds treated, but his pride clearly damaged. He had been waiting for hours, having been dropped off by the rescue team. "You survived the Sand Reaper?" he asked, genuine surprise in his voice. "I didn't fight it," Jiwon replied simply. "I used the environment to my advantage. Sometimes the best survival strategy isn't confrontation but adaptation." The rescue coordinator checked her beacon and equipment, confirming she had reached the central point on schedule without needing emergency assistance. "Test of survival, human victory," announced the challenge master through communication systems. 3. Tests completed. 3 human victories. The impossible had happened. Prince Tarok stared at Jiwon, beginning to understand that everything he thought he knew about strength and superiority needed reconsideration. The medical bay on the neutral station was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Prince Tarok sat on a bed specially designed for his species, his 6 arms now properly bandaged. The deep gashes from the Sand Reaper's claws had been treated, though they still caused him considerable pain. A gentle knock came at the door, and Ambassador Jiwon Kim entered carrying a small tray. The scent of warm broth filled the air. She had carefully prepared it from edible plants found on Krikstar during her survival test. "I thought you might need something warm to drink," she said, setting the tray nearby. The medical staff said, "You haven't eaten much." Prince Tarok stared at her in confusion. You Bring me food after defeating me? After humiliating me before the entire galaxy? Jiwon settled into a chair beside his bed, her expression gentle. I didn't defeat you to humiliate you, Your Highness. The challenge was about understanding, not humiliation. Understanding? Prince. Terok's voice carried bitter notes. You showed the galaxy that everything my empire believes about strength is wrong, that our way of life, our system of order, is based on false assumptions. Jiwon picked up the bowl and offered it to him. He accepted it with one hand, though his pride made the gesture difficult. Prince Terok, may I ask you something? When you challenged smaller species, when you demanded tribute from weaker worlds, did you ever consider why your strength alone entitled you to rule others? The prince was quiet for a long moment, sipping the warm broth. It was surprisingly good, carrying flavors he hadn't expected from Krikstar's harsh environment. My ancestors taught us that power creates order. The strongest species maintain peace by controlling resources and preventing chaos. And did you bring peace? Jiwon asked calmly. Or did your system create resentment, desperation, and the need for constant force to maintain control? Prince Terok started to respond angrily, then stopped. The events of the past days had forced him to see things differently. The humans. You approached every challenge by thinking differently, not by applying more force. You saved our wounded when you could have left us. You understood that real strength comes from adaptation, not domination? Exactly, Jiwon smiled. And now the entire galaxy has seen that. The challenge wasn't just about Earth's tribute. It was about proving that cooperation creates more strength than conquest. A week later, the Galactic Council reconvened for the official conclusion ceremony. The massive chamber was packed, with viewership numbers breaking all previous records. Delegates who had mocked Earth just weeks ago now watched with new respect. Prince Terok stood at his throne, but this time his posture was different. Gone was the arrogant bearing of someone who believed might made right. In its place was the thoughtful stance of someone who had learned a profound lesson. Members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice carrying across the chamber. Today I stand before you as someone who has discovered that real strength is far more complex than physical power. He gestured to Jiwon, who stood quietly at the human platform. Ambassador Kim and the humans have shown us that our tribute system, born from assumptions about strength and weakness, has actually made our entire civilization weaker. By taking resources through force rather than encouraging growth through partnership, we have stunted our own potential. Murmurs spread through the assembly. This was not the Prince Terok they knew. Therefore, the prince continued, the Veltari Empire formally abolishes all forced tribute collection from any world. We propose a new system based on voluntary trade, mutual support, and shared technology. Earth will lead the first partnership council to help design this new framework. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some species cheered, finally seeing an end to centuries of enforced payments. Others looked worried, wondering how this would affect their own positions of power. The challenge master moved forward, its tentacles flowing gracefully. Ambassador Kim, according to the terms of the challenge, you have won significant concessions. Do you accept Prince Terok's additional offering? Jiwon stepped forward and bowed to both the prince and the assembly. We accept with gratitude. However, we propose that this transition period include all species as equal partners. Humanity has learned that our strength comes not from standing above others, but from lifting everyone together. Prince Terok descended from his throne and approached Jiwon. For the first time, he bent down to meet her at eye level, extending one large hand. Ambassador Kim, would the humans be willing to help the Veltari learn this new way of thinking? We have much to unlearn, and I believe we have much to gain from your perspective. Jiwon shook his hand firmly. We would be honored, Prince Terok. That's what partners do. They help each other grow. As the ceremony concluded and delegates began filing out, something fundamental had shifted in the galaxy's power structure. The footage of a small human and a massive alien prince shaking hands as equals became one of the most widely shared images in galactic history. Years later, historians would mark this moment as the beginning of the partnership era, when cooperation finally replaced domination as the foundation of galactic civilization. And it all started with a simple ambassador who refused to accept that size-determined worth.